The global count of the coronavirus positive cases is nearing the 200,000 mark, with over 7,000 deaths. And doctors across the world are racing against time to not just develop a vaccine, but also just to understand more about this novel virus. US researchers have now administered the first shots of an experimental coronavirus vaccine. But now there's a bigger question facing the world. Can you get coronavirus again after recovering? A woman working as a tour bus guide in Japan has tested positive for the virus for a second time, in what authorities have said is the first such case in the country. The woman, in her early 40s and a resident of Osaka in western Japan, tested positive last week after developing a sore throat and chest pains. Japan has confirmed the woman's case was the first in the country where a patient tested positive for a second time after being discharged from hospital. But it isn't the first case overall. A similar case has been reported even in South Korea. And in China, nearly 14% of recovered COVID-19 patients in Guangdong tested positive again. One patient, a 36-year-old man, died in Wuhan on March 2, 5 days after being declared recovered. It is too early to pinpoint the reason for this reinfection because it can also be because of less reliable diagnostic tests or even patients being wrongly designated as recovered and released too early from hospitals. Remember, the overburdened healthcare system has put pressure on doctors, especially in China, to discharge people who may have not yet fully recovered to free up beds for newly infected patients. But since such cases have now been reported from South Korea and even in Japan, there is a huge concern because unlike what is generally believed, those who have been treated may not have immunity. It is rare for people to get reinfected from an infectious disease. Scientists have been left confused and uneasy by this news. While most still believe that some people may catch an infectious disease again, it is a rare occurrence. But that is not all, because another study is pointing to some dangerous new information about the virus, which could make detecting and thus fighting it much harder. A study by the Lancet Medical Journal reports that coronavirus patients can keep the pathogen in their respiratory tract for as long as 37 days, meaning that they could remain infectious for many weeks. Given that the current quarantine period is recommended as 14 days, patients might remain contagious longer, unwittingly spreading the virus further. So should the self-quarantine period be increased to over a month is right now a big question. Meanwhile, Hong Kong Hospital Authority studied the first wave of patients to recover from confirmed cases of the virus. It was observed that several discharged patients were back for follow-up appointments and some of them were unable to do things as they had in the past. The patients now will undergo tests to determine how much lung function they still have. Scans suggest there is organ damage to the lungs, but it was so far uncertain whether this could lead to complications later in life, such as pulmonary fibrosis. These findings are a grim reminder that we still don't know much about the virus, how it affects people, for how long, and how to treat and completely control it. In other words, the fight is far from over.